Beneath 5 kilometers of Antarctic ice, something is hidden. Something so significant that the world's most powerful nations are quietly repositioning themselves to be the first to reach it. China has built 5 research stations and is constructing a 6th. Russia is running seismic surveys in territory no country is supposed to claim. 7 nations hold territorial claims to this continent that were never abandoned, only frozen. In 2048, the international agreement that has kept Antarctica untouched comes up for review. And when it does, everything buried under that ice becomes the most dangerous prize on Earth. What is buried under that ice is worth more than oil, more than gold, and more than any resource humanity has ever fought over. And the fight has already begun. The continent nobody owns, but everyone wants. Antarctica does not belong to anyone. That is what the maps say. That is what the treaties say. But maps and treaties are written by people, and people lie. 7 nations hold active territorial claims to this continent. Argentina, Australia, Chile, France, New Zealand, Norway, and the United Kingdom. None of them surrendered those claims when the Antarctic Treaty was signed in 1959. They froze them. There is a significant difference between surrendering something and agreeing not to touch it for a while. 3 of those frozen territorial claims directly overlap. Argentina, Chile, and the United Kingdom all claim the same section of the Antarctic Peninsula, which is the long arm of land that stretches out from the continent towards South America. All 3 nations want the same piece of ground. In 1982, that same rivalry between Argentina and the United Kingdom boiled over into a real war. It was not fought over Antarctica itself, but over the Falkland Islands, a small group of islands sitting in the South Atlantic between the 2 nations. That war killed 907 people. It was fought over islands with almost no strategic value compared to what lies beneath Antarctica. And here is the part that should concern everyone. The dispute that caused that war was never actually resolved. Argentina still claims those islands. The United Kingdom still holds them. The tension never went away. It was simply pushed aside. The continent itself is almost impossible to imagine at scale. Antarctica is larger than the United States and Mexico combined. It holds 70% of all the fresh water on Earth, locked inside an ice sheet thick enough to bury the Alps completely. Temperatures here drop to negative 90 degrees Celsius. Winds exceed 200 miles per hour. In winter, parts of the continent go months without a single hour of sunlight. And yet every major power on the planet wants a permanent presence here. Antarctica was not always this frozen wasteland. Around 34 million years ago, it was a forested temperate landmass covered in rivers and green vegetation. It did not freeze slowly over millions of years through gradual cooling. It froze because of one specific geological event. A passage opened between Antarctica and South America, known as the Drake Passage, and it cut the continent off from the warm ocean currents that had kept it alive. Within a relatively short geological window, the forest died, the rivers stopped, and everything was sealed beneath ice. That accident turned Antarctica into a vault, preserving everything beneath it in near-perfect condition for tens of millions of years. What makes this continent even more unsettling is its reach. The massive winds that pour down from its ice sheet, called katabatic winds, do not just affect Antarctica. They drive ocean circulation patterns across the entire southern hemisphere. When those winds shift, rainfall patterns change across South America, southern Africa, and Australia. Antarctica controls the climate of a third of the planet without anyone living on it. The treaty has held for over 60 years. But nations are already moving. Infrastructure is already being built. And in 2048, the agreement protecting this continent from exploitation comes up for review. Whoever is most present when that moment arrives will be holding the strongest hand. But to understand what they are actually racing toward, you have to go beneath the surface. And the first thing buried under Antarctica is not oil or minerals. It is time itself. The ice library and the people reading it. Here is something most people do not know about Antarctica. Beneath all the ice is the most complete record of Earth's entire climate history that exists anywhere on the planet. Not in a museum, not in a laboratory, locked inside the ice itself. Here is how it works. Every year, snow falls across Antarctica and compresses under its own weight. As it compresses, it traps tiny bubbles of air between the ice grains. Each layer is 1 year. Each bubble is a sealed sample of the exact atmosphere that existed at that precise moment in Earth's history. The deeper you drill, the further back in time you go. Scientists drill down into this ice and pull out long cylinders called ice cores. Every core they pull up is a chapter of Earth's story that exists nowhere else. The deepest cores recovered so far go nearly 3 kilometers down and contain air that is approximately 1.2 million years old. That air existed before modern humans walked the Earth, before the last ice age, before almost everything we call civilization. These cores carry the exact levels of carbon dioxide and methane from each era. They contain ash from volcanic eruptions that happened hundreds of thousands of years ago. They recorded when the Sahara was a green, fertile landscape. They show a time when carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was half of what it is today. If this ice melts, every single one of those records is gone permanently. There is no recovering them. And scientists believe the most important chapter has not even been reached yet. The current drilling target is ice containing air from 1.5 million years ago. That specific period is called the mid-Pleistocene transition, and it is one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in climate science. During that time, Earth's ice age cycles suddenly changed rhythm, with no clear explanation. The cycles shifted from repeating every 41,000 years to repeating every 100,000 years, and nobody fully understands why. If scientists reach that ice layer, they may finally find out why Earth's climate periodically destabilizes completely on its own, with no human involvement whatsoever. Some researchers are genuinely unsettled by what that answer might reveal. The ice has already produced one finding that should alarm everyone. A sudden catastrophic cold snap, called the Younger Dryas, hit Earth approximately 12,800 years ago. When scientists examined the ice cores from that period, they found that temperatures dropped by as much as 10 degrees Celsius within a single decade, not a century, a decade. The ice proved that Earth's climate does not always change gradually. It can collapse without warning. Now here is where this becomes a power story. This data is worth an enormous amount of money and strategic advantage. Governments and energy companies spend billions modeling future climate conditions because those models reveal where to drill for oil before regulations close that window, which coastlines will survive the next 50 years, where to position military infrastructure, and which farming regions will fail. Antarctica holds the most accurate answers to all of those questions in one place. And access to those answers belongs to whoever has a physical presence on the ground. China and Russia are not building polar stations out of love for science. They are building the infrastructure that gives them direct access to this data as it is collected and studied. The ice is the most valuable climate archive on Earth. But the nations racing to read it are not all there for the same reasons. Beneath that archive, something else is moving through the dark. Something that has nothing to do with climate and everything to do with how far life can survive where it has no business surviving. The hidden drainage system. In 1911, a geologist named Griffith Taylor was surveying the McMurdo Dry Valleys when he stopped and stared at something that had no explanation. A deep red liquid was bleeding out of the face of a glacier, slow and steady, staining the ice like an open wound. His best guess was red algae. He wrote it down and moved on. He was wrong, and it would take more than a century before anyone figured out what he had actually found. Beneath that glacier, buried under approximately 400 meters of ice, sat a lake of ancient brine. The water inside it is more than twice as salty as the ocean. That extreme saltiness keeps it liquid even at -5 degrees Celsius, temperatures that would freeze ordinary water solid. The lake has been completely sealed in total darkness for approximately 1.5 million years. When that ancient water finally pushes through cracks and reaches the surface, the dissolved iron it carries reacts instantly with oxygen in the air and turns blood red. Scientists call it blood falls. The name is accurate. Inside that brine, scientists found something that stopped them cold: microbial life. Organisms that have been alive and active in complete darkness, with no sunlight and no oxygen for 1.5 million years. They survive by breaking down iron and sulfur compounds in the water around them, running the same chemical reactions in sealed darkness for longer than the entire existence of modern humans. They are still going. Blood Falls is not unique. It is simply the one place where this hidden world broke through to the surface. Beneath the Antarctic ice, there is an entire connected drainage system of underground rivers and lakes threading through the darkness. Some of them flowing uphill in ways that defy what most people expect water to do. Scientists cannot physically reach most of this system. Everything humans have directly accessed beneath the Antarctic ice covers an area roughly the size of a basketball court. Instead of going down, researchers fly over the ice in helicopters carrying massive electromagnetic sensor loops suspended beneath them. These sensors send signals down through kilometers of ice and rock and read back what is frozen, what is liquid, and what is moving below. They are mapping a hidden world without ever setting foot in it. What they found in that hidden world is alarming. Beneath the Whillans ice stream in West Antarctica, scientists documented subglacial lakes draining and refilling in rapid cycles, pushing billions of liters of water across hundreds of kilometers of bedrock in a matter of weeks. When those lakes drain, the ice surface above physically rises and drops by several meters as the pressure shifts below. More critically, the draining water creates a thin film between the ice and the bedrock beneath it. That film acts as a lubricant. It allows glaciers to slide faster toward the ocean. Subglacial drainage is not just a water event. It is a mechanism that accelerates ice loss. The nutrients carried by these hidden systems, iron, organic carbon, dissolved minerals, eventually reach the Southern Ocean, where they fuel the base of one of the most productive marine food chains on Earth. Antarctica feeds the ocean from underground, in the dark, through a system that took millions of years to build. But the lakes these rivers feed into are hiding something far more significant than nutrients, something that has forced scientists to rethink the boundaries of where life can exist. The lakes that should not have life. Lake Vostok sits beneath nearly 4 kilometers of Antarctic ice. It is 240 kilometers long and 50 kilometers wide, making it one of the largest lakes on Earth. It has been completely sealed from the atmosphere for millions of years. It has never seen sunlight. By every rule of surface biology, nothing should be alive in it. The rules of surface biology do not apply here. There are nearly 700 subglacial lakes beneath Antarctica. In the small number that scientists have managed to sample, they have already found life operating by principles that have no equivalent above the ice. In Lake Whillans, microbes survive entirely by extracting energy from the chemical reactions in surrounding rock. They do not need sunlight. They do not need warmth. They do not need anything the surface world provides. In Lake Mercer, microbial signatures have been found preserved in ancient sediments, organisms that lived and died in total isolation, leaving traces in the dark. Then there was the moment that changed everything. In the mid-1990s, a research team lowered a camera through a borehole drilled through the ice above the Camb ice stream. The borehole was more than 180 meters below the surface and 19 kilometers from the nearest open water. The camera feed came back, and swimming past the lens was a shrimp-like crustacean called an amphipod. The team ran checks on the equipment immediately, convinced something had contaminated the borehole. It had not. That small creature, alive and moving in complete darkness, hundreds of kilometers from sunlight, rewrote what scientists thought was possible beneath the ice. Russia had been drilling toward Lake Vostok for decades. The international scientific community spent years raising concerns about contamination, about the ethics of breaching a sealed ecosystem that had been isolated for millions of years. Russia continued drilling. To keep the borehole from collapsing over those decades, engineers pumped it full of approximately 60 tons of freon and kerosene as drilling fluid. In 2012, they finally broke through into the lake and retrieved water samples. They then reported finding bacterial DNA, unlike anything in known biological databases. The scientific community immediately raised contamination concerns. 60 tons of chemical drilling fluid had been sitting in that borehole for years. Russia dismissed the concerns. The results were never independently verified. Russia has never granted other scientists full access to the samples. An entire potential discovery, possibly the first confirmed life from a sealed subglacial environment, sits in a Moscow laboratory, unconfirmed and unreleased. That is not a scientific dispute. That is a geopolitical decision dressed as one. The significance of these lakes stretches far beyond Earth. Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, is believed to have an ocean containing more liquid water than all of Earth's oceans combined, sealed beneath an ice shell tens of kilometers thick. Enceladus, a moon of Saturn, has been photographed apparently venting water plumes through cracks in its surface ice, a mechanism strikingly similar to blood falls. NASA's Europa Clipper mission, launched in October 2024, is designed specifically to fly through those plumes and search for signs of life. The scientific case for that mission was built significantly on what researchers found in Antarctic subglacial systems. Antarctica is not just a frozen continent, it is the closest thing on Earth to the alien ocean scientists are now spending billions to reach. And the deeper you go beneath that ice, the more you find that the surface world has been wrong about this place for a very long time. The ice is not just being melted from above. Something beneath it has been generating heat for millions of years, and nobody knew the full scale of it until 2017. The volcanic field nobody mapped. For years, climate scientists ran their models of West Antarctic ice loss and kept hitting the same problem. The ice was disappearing faster than the numbers said it should. They accounted for rising atmospheric temperatures. They accounted for ocean warming. The gap remained. Something in the baseline was wrong, but nobody could find it. In 2017, a research team from the University of Edinburgh published findings that answered the question in the most unsettling way possible. Using ice-penetrating radar, they identified 91 volcanoes buried beneath the West Antarctic ice sheet that nobody had ever mapped. Combined with the 47 already documented, the total came to 138 volcanoes hidden under kilometers of ice. It is the highest concentration of volcanoes found anywhere on Earth. The continent had been sitting on top of a massive volcanic field the entire time, and the models had not accounted for any of it. The geological structure beneath West Antarctica, known as the West Antarctic Rift System, is comparable in scale and volcanic density to the East African Rift, one of the most geologically active regions on the planet. The difference is that the East African Rift is visible and studied. The one beneath Antarctica was hidden so completely under ice that the scientific community did not know its full extent until the 21st century. These volcanoes cannot erupt upward in the way surface volcanoes do. The weight of several kilometers of ice pressing down from above suppresses the kind of explosive blast that surface eruptions produce. Instead, heat builds beneath the ice, melting it from underneath and carving chambers of pressurized water and steam deep within the ice sheet. Ash layers found trapped inside ice cores confirm that eruptions have been happening while the ice was forming above them. Recent seismic data suggests some of these volcanoes are active right now. Mount Erebus, the southernmost active volcano on Earth, is one of only a handful of volcanoes anywhere on the planet that maintains a continuously active lava lake. It has been erupting in this steady, persistent way for at least 50 years. The volcanic gases it releases contain complex organic compounds that researchers are still studying. Scientists recently identified that the chemical signature of Erebus's plume is detectable from orbit, which has opened a new line of thinking about how to identify hidden heat sources on other planets, including Mars. Inside the steam caves that Erebus carves through the surrounding ice, scientists have found mosses, algae, and DNA sequences that do not match any known organism in existing biological records. Some researchers believe these could be microbial lineages that separated from the rest of life on Earth millions of years ago and evolved in complete isolation inside those volcanic caves. No definitive identification has ever been published. The caves may contain life that exists nowhere else on Earth, and science has not yet been able to say what it is. There is one more consequence of this volcanic heat that is rarely discussed. As ice melts and the weight pressing down on the crust decreases, the crust begins to flex. That flexing changes the stress deep inside the rock. In regions with existing volcanic activity, reduced pressure on the crust can trigger eruptions. Studies of Iceland after its glaciers retreated confirm this pattern clearly. In West Antarctica, where both ice loss and volcanic activity are happening simultaneously, this feedback loop is active and currently unquantified. If a significant eruption occurred beneath the ice sheet, the immediate threat would not be lava. It would be a catastrophic pulse of meltwater driven to the base of glaciers, lubricating their slide toward the ocean at a speed no model has fully accounted for. The volcanoes answered why West Antarctica was changing faster than anyone predicted. But beneath the volcanoes, beneath the lakes, beneath everything, there is a floor, and what is buried in that floor reaches back further than anything above it. The buried continent. Scientists could not go down and look directly, so they did the next best thing. They built a digital map using data collected from millions of radar measurements taken across the entire continent. The map is called Bed Machine Antarctica. When they stripped away all the ice on that map and looked at what remained, the familiar white continent disappeared completely. What appeared in its place stopped researchers cold. Beneath the ice was an entirely different world. Buried mountain ranges, ancient canyons, river valleys with their original courses still perfectly intact, ocean basins that have not seen light in tens of millions of years. Antarctica is not just a continent covered in ice. It is a lost world sealed inside one. The Gamburtsev Mountains sit buried under 4 kilometers of ice in the interior of East Antarctica. Their peaks rise 3,400 meters high. No human being has ever stood on them. No surface expedition has ever reached them. They are the most significant unexplored mountain range on Earth. And they should not exist. The ancient continental crust they rise from should have been worn completely flat by erosion hundreds of millions of years ago. Scientists believe they were preserved and possibly pushed upward by ancient tectonic collisions and the compressive weight of the ice above them. But the full explanation is still incomplete. They are an anomaly sitting at the center of a continent full of them. Nearby, Denman Canyon cuts through the bedrock and plunges more than 3.5 kilometers below sea level. It is the deepest land canyon on Earth. Fossilized pollen and root systems found in the surrounding rock confirm what this place once was. Antarctica had forests. It had rivers. It had a climate comparable to modern Patagonia. This was not always the end of the world. It was once the middle of a living one. Then the Drake Passage opened, the warm currents died, and the ice came. It buried everything so completely that the memory of that world only survives in fossils pressed into rock beneath kilometers of frozen silence. Then, there is the structure that has unsettled researchers more than anything else the bedrock revealed. Buried beneath the ice of East Antarctica is a circular formation 300 kilometers wide. Scientists detected it by noticing that the gravitational pull in that region behaved differently from the surrounding rock, which indicated something massive and unusual sitting beneath the surface. They call it the Wilkes Land Gravity Anomaly. In 2006, a scientific study proposed that it is an asteroid impact crater approximately 250 million years old. 250 million years ago, Earth experienced the largest mass extinction in its entire history. Scientists call it the Great Dying. Approximately 96% of all marine species were wiped out. 70% of all land vertebrates vanished. Nearly all complex life on this planet came within a fraction of ending permanently. The cause has never been definitively identified. But if the Wilkes Land structure is an impact crater from that exact period, it may be the physical scar of the event that triggered the Great Dying. The asteroid that almost erased everything may have struck Antarctica. And for 250 million years, the ice has been sitting on top of it. Beneath West Antarctica, the Thwaites Glacier, a mass of ice roughly the size of Florida, is collapsing from below. Warm ocean water is eating at its base. A cavity the size of New York City has already formed underneath it, where ice has separated from the bedrock. If Thwaites fully destabilizes, it could raise global sea levels by up to 65 centimeters on its own. Behind it sits the broader West Antarctic ice sheet, which holds enough water to raise sea levels by 3 to 5 meters. Thwaites is the last barrier between the current world and that one. And the bedrock beneath it slopes in a direction that means the more it retreats, the faster it will go. Everything under this continent, the ancient air, the hidden rivers, the sealed lakes, the volcanic fields, the buried mountains, the impact scar, and the collapsing glacier, is connected. And all of it is now at the center of a confrontation that has been building quietly for years. The race, the resources, and the reckoning. Antarctica has no permanent residents, no government, no army, no flag that everyone agrees to respect. And that absence is exactly what makes it the most contested piece of land on Earth right now. The United States Geological Survey estimates Antarctica holds approximately 36 billion barrels of oil and 3 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. It also contains coal, copper, gold, platinum, and manganese. But the resource drawing the most strategic attention is rare earth elements, the minerals used to manufacture electric vehicles, military guidance systems, smartphones, and satellite technology. China currently controls approximately 60% of global rare earth mining, Antarctic deposits would break that dominance completely. This is not an environmental story. It is the opening move of an economic war. The Antarctic Treaty of 1959 banned military activity and suspended all territorial claims. A later agreement added in 1991 specifically banned mining. But in 2048, that mining ban comes up for mandatory review. If 3/4 of the signed nations agree, the ban can be lifted. The mechanism to dismantle Antarctica's protections has been sitting inside the treaty the entire time. Russia has spent years conducting seismic surveys across Antarctic waters, quietly mapping oil and gas resources beneath the seabed. It has made no formal challenge to the treaty. It has simply been gathering exactly the information it would need if it ever decided to make one. China has gone further. Between 2014 and 2024, it went from 2 Antarctic stations to 5, with a 6th under construction. Its newest station opened in February 2024, in a region analysts have flagged as strategically significant for future resource access. China has also built heavy icebreaker vessels that no Western program can currently match. By several measurable standards, China has already surpassed the United States in Antarctic presence. The United States is falling behind on aging infrastructure while its rivals build forward. The 7 frozen territorial claims were never abandoned. They were paused. The same rivalries that produced the Falklands War are still sitting underneath the treaty, waiting. The nations that understand what is buried here are not debating. They are building stations, mapping seabeds, and positioning icebreakers. The race is not coming. It has already started. And Antarctica, the continent that belongs to no one, is about to belong to whoever gets there first.